My name is Leah and I am a Vori. My wings, once a vibrant display of iridescent teal and silver, are now a faded echo of their former beauty. Born on Voria, a planet where natural wonders fuse seamlessly with sentient complexities, I belong to a species revered for delicate, feather-like appendages and profound telepathic abilities. Here in our world of vast jungles and floating islands held aloft by the planet's core magnetism, we communicate not just with words but with thoughts, creating a society deeply bonded by empathy. I lived in a small community on one of the eastern floating islands, a place lush with vibrant flora and cascading waterfalls that stretched upwards into the sky. Life here was peaceful and attuned to nature, a stark contrast to the dark shadows of political unrest that would soon envelop our world. The peace began to unravel slowly at first, with minor disputes over land and resources. But tensions escalated quickly when a group of separatists, intent on reshaping our society, began to challenge the old council. They saw our telepathic gifts as tools for domination rather than for understanding. And their ambitions split our community, turning friends into foes and our serene habitat into a battleground. My family, once prominent in the community for our role as telepathists and mediators, became targets. My parents, who guarded our ancient telepathic archives, were falsely accused of conspiring with the old council and taken away under dubious charges. With my family torn apart, I was left vulnerable. Our home was violated, its sanctity shattered, leaving me alone and uncertain of my future. In the midst of this chaos, I clung to my parents' teachings. I wandered the quieter parts of our island, seeking solace in the ancient groves where our elders taught the art of deep telepathic connections. These groves were where I learned to extend my thoughts beyond the immediate, reaching out to distant kin. Yet as the war drew nearer, even this sanctuary began to fade, swallowed by the approaching turmoil. One dawn, as mist hugged the forest and the first light of day bled into the sky, disaster struck. Without warning, separatist soldiers invaded our enclave, seizing anyone they could. I tried to escape but was quickly captured. As they bound and blindfolded me, I reached out with my mind, my voice quivering with fear. "Why are you doing this?" Their reply was a cold, telepathic sneer. "Orders are orders, little bird. Your kind needs to learn its place." Deemed insignificant, I was discarded by the separatists in the wild, dense jungles, far below our floating home. Their mocking laughter echoed as they departed, leaving me alone, my wings broken, my spirit shattered. Lying next to a cold, rushing river, I felt the cruel transformation of my world. As darkness enveloped me and the cries of night predators filled the air, I sent a desperate telepathic call into the void, praying for a savior to find me amidst the ruins of my life. Part 2. Capture and Abandonment. As the first light of dawn streaked across the sky, painting the floating islands of Voria in soft hues, a sudden darkness loomed above. The ominous shadows of separatist airships broke the morning calm, their engines a harsh contrast to the peaceful dawn chorus. My heart sank as I watched them descend, a deep fear gripping me despite my efforts to stay calm, remembering my parents' teachings to keep focused in times of danger. "Leah, come quickly!" The urgent call from my neighbor, an elder Vori with a streak of gray across his vibrant blue feathers, broke through my shock. His wingtips fluttered anxiously as he beckoned me towards the shelter. I folded my wings tightly against my back and ran with him, heading to the safety of a structure nestled beneath the intertwined roots of a massive hara tree, known among our people for its protective strength. Inside, the air was thick with the murmur of confused and frightened voices. The community huddled together, seeking comfort in proximity as Elder Vori shared rumors and scraps of information. "They are rounding up everyone connected to the council," whispered one elder, her voice trembling. "They think we're hiding secrets, maybe even weapons." Thoughts of my parents surged to the forefront of my mind. They had always been advocates for peace, never for violence. "My parents wouldn't keep such things from us," I whispered back defiantly, the fear in my voice masked by my resolve. The shelter shuddered with the impact of boots above, the sound of the separatists searching with ruthless efficiency. It wasn't long before the entrance burst open and armed separatists flooded in. Their leader, a tall figure clad in a dark uniform, scanned the crowd with a steely gaze. "You will all be questioned. Anyone found hiding information will be dealt with," he declared coldly. His sharp eyes locked on me. "You, come with us. You're the telepathist's daughter," he commanded, pointing directly at me. A rough hand seized my arm, pulling me from the cluster of my neighbors. My neighbor, the elder who had called me to safety, stepped forward, his feathers bristling. "Let her go! She's just a child," he protested, his voice cracking. "She's a potential threat, like all of them," the separatist snapped back, dragging me into the harsh light of morning. As I was hauled towards the airships, the cool air slapped against my face, and below, the island seemed so peaceful from afar, its beauty a stark contrast to the terror clutching my heart. Bound and powerless, I was shoved into the cramped holding area of the airship, surrounded by other captives, each as scared as I was. The engines roared to life, and as we ascended, the island shrank away, a sight that deepened the pit of despair within me. Amidst the bleakness, a gentle mental touch brushed against my mind. "Hold on, dear. We are together in this," whispered a fellow captive telepathically. I tried to respond, to connect with the comforting presence, but my fear clouded my ability to reach back. Instead, I clung to the memories of my parents, their smiles, and their unwavering belief in me. These memories, I hoped, would give me the strength to endure what was to come. When the airship finally landed, it was in a remote, inhospitable part of the jungle. We were herded off like livestock, and with chilling efficiency, the separatists began to abandon those they deemed useless. Considered insignificant due to my young age and untested abilities, I was left alone in the dense undergrowth. My bindings cut away as the airship rose and disappeared into the sky. As the sound of the departing airship faded, the crushing weight of isolation pressed upon me. Night was drawing near, and the symphony of the jungle's nocturnal life began to swell, an orchestra of unknown dangers encircling me. Lying next to the rushing river, with my wings damaged and my spirit shattered, I sent out a desperate telepathic distress call into the darkness, praying for a miracle to save me from the impending shadows. Part 3. The Desperate Call. The cloak of nightfall draped Voria in a symphony of eerie sounds. From the haunting cries of unseen creatures to the gentle rustle of leaves stirred by the breeze, the jungle around me was alive with activity. Tonight, however, these familiar sounds were muted by an overwhelming silence, filled only by my labored breaths and the distant menacing growls of jungle predators. I lay beside the river, the cold seeping through the thin layer of fallen leaves I had gathered for warmth. My wings, once a vibrant emblem of my identity, now lay crumpled and bruised beneath me, a painful reminder of the cruelty I had endured at the hands of the separatists and the harsh reality of my fall. In the solitude of darkness, my mind wandered to the last moments I saw my parents. Their faces, etched with worry, haunted me. I could almost hear my mother's hurried whisper as we parted, "Stay strong, my heart. Use your gifts wisely and trust your inner voice." Her words were meant to comfort, but in my current state, strength felt like a distant memory. The pain and loneliness weighed heavily on me, yet the ember of resolve my mother had ignited within me still glimmered faintly. With a deep, steadying breath, I closed my eyes and turned inward, reaching out with my mind in search of any sympathetic presence. I envisioned my telepathic call as a gentle wave of light, a soft beacon pulsing from the core of my being, spreading through the vastness of the jungle. "Help? Please, anyone," I thought, my mental voice frail yet determined. Time slipped by, marked only by the rhythm of the jungle, a natural order to which I felt painfully alien. Just as despair began to tighten its grip, the sharp snap of a twig nearby shattered my concentration. My eyes flew open and my body tensed, bracing for the worst. Through the dim moonlight, the looming shadow of a large figure approached, its eyes catching the light and glinting ominously. My heart raced, fear threatening to overwhelm me. "Please, not like this," I pleaded silently, my mind a whirlwind of panic. The figure drew closer, its form becoming clearer. Not a predator of the jungle, but a man, cautiously moving towards me. He stopped a few feet away, his posture wary, yet not threatening. "I heard your call. Are you hurt?" His voice was deep, resonant, and surprisingly gentle. filled not with malice but concern. Relief washed over me, and I managed a weak nod. "Yes, I'm hurt and alone. Please, I need help," I whispered, my voice barely audible. He knelt beside me, his actions careful and deliberate. "I'm Jack, a peacekeeper. I was on patrol when I sensed your distress. It's rare to find someone with your abilities so far from the floating islands," he explained, examining my wings with a tenderness that felt alien after the harshness I had endured, as Jack's hands gently supported my efforts to stand. A warmth spread through me, emanating not from his touch but from the mental connection we inadvertently formed. His calm presence was like a beacon in my storm of fear. "Can you walk?" he asked, his tone encouraging as he helped me to my feet. With his steady support, I found the strength to stand, leaning heavily against him. "I think so, with some assistance," I replied. "Good," Jack responded, a smile audible in his voice. "Let's get you out of here. You're not safe alone in the jungle at night." As we began our slow journey towards the safety of his outpost, each step bolstered by Jack's unwavering support, hope flickered within me once more. My desperate call into the night had summoned not just a rescuer, but a guardian, and perhaps in him, a new ally in this vast, uncaring wilderness. Part 4. The Unlikely Rescue. As Jack led me through the dense underbrush of the jungle with practiced ease, I leaned on him heavily, my body still weak from my ordeal. His vigilant eyes scanned the dark environment for signs of danger, a skill honed from years of patrolling these hostile territories. "Try to keep up with my pace. I know it's tough, but we need to get you to a safer location before daylight," Jack instructed, his voice low and steady, cutting through the night's quiet. I nodded, too exhausted to speak. My mind was a whirlwind of recent events, and the physical exertion required to keep moving was almost too much. However, Jack's presence, a solid, reassuring figure in this chaos, gave me a sense of security that I hadn't felt since the war began. As we moved, Jack broke the silence that had fallen between us, his voice thoughtful. "I've seen a lot in my time here, but I never expected to find someone like you out here. What were those separatists thinking, leaving you in such a state?" Relief washed over me, and I managed a weak nod. "Yes, I'm hurt and alone. Please, I need help," I whispered, my voice barely audible. He knelt beside me, his actions careful and deliberate. "I'm Jack, a peacekeeper. I was on patrol when I sensed your distress. It's rare to find someone with your abilities so far from the floating islands," he explained, examining my wings with a tenderness that felt alien after the harshness I had endured, as Jack's hands gently supported my efforts to stand. A warmth spread through me, emanating not from his touch but from the mental connection we inadvertently formed. His calm presence was like a beacon in my storm of fear. "Can you walk?" he asked, his tone encouraging as he helped me to my feet. With his steady support, I found the strength to stand, leaning heavily against him. "I think so, with some assistance," I replied. "Good," Jack responded, a smile audible in his voice. "Let's get you out of here. You're not safe alone in the jungle at night." As we began our slow journey towards the safety of his outpost, each step bolstered by Jack's unwavering support, hope flickered within me once more. My desperate call into the night had summoned not just a rescuer, but a guardian, and perhaps in him, a new ally in this vast, uncaring wilderness. Part 4. The Unlikely Rescue. As Jack led me through the dense underbrush of the jungle with practiced ease, I leaned on him heavily, my body still weak from my ordeal. His vigilant eyes scanned the dark environment for signs of danger, a skill honed from years of patrolling these hostile territories. "Try to keep up with my pace. I know it's tough, but we need to get you to a safer location before daylight," Jack instructed, his voice low and steady, cutting through the night's quiet. I nodded, too exhausted to speak. My mind was a whirlwind of recent events, and the physical exertion required to keep moving was almost too much. However, Jack's presence, a solid, reassuring figure in this chaos, gave me a sense of security that I hadn't felt since the war began. As we moved, Jack broke the silence that had fallen between us, his voice thoughtful. "I've seen a lot in my time here, but I never expected to find someone like you out here. What were those separatists thinking, leaving you in such a state?" As I was helped into the camp, a profound sense of relief washed over me. The risk Jack had taken to save me, a stranger yet a kindred spirit in this struggle for survival, underscored the unexpected alliances that could form even in the shadows of war. This small, hidden outpost felt like a beacon of hope, a place where healing could begin and new bonds could be forged. Part 5. Journey through the jungle. Lying on a cot in the infirmary, I felt every gentle touch of Dr. Henson as he treated my injured wings. The outpost infirmary was simple but surprisingly well equipped, a stark contrast to the roughness of the jungle. As I watched the concern etched on Jack's face, a sense of gratitude overwhelmed me. "How is she doing?" Jack's voice betrayed his worry as he hovered nearby, his eyes never leaving Dr. Henson's movements. "She's stable, but her wings took a serious hit. It's going to take some time for full recovery. She's lucky you found her when you did," the medic responded, his tone professional yet reassuring. Despite the throbbing pain, I managed a weak smile. "I owe you my life, Jack." Jack returned the smile with a nod, his usual stern demeanor softened. "Just doing my part. Rest now. We'll talk when you're feeling better." In the days that followed, I found myself gradually regaining strength, the infirmary becoming a blur of new faces, all curious and surprisingly kind. Jack's visits became the highlights of my days, bringing updates from outside and sitting beside my cot, sometimes just in silence, sometimes filling me with stories of the world beyond the walls of the infirmary. During one visit, Jack's expression was more thoughtful than usual. "Once you're well enough, we'll need to figure out your next steps. It's not safe for you to go back, not with the separatists still looking for you," he said, his tone laced with concern. The thought of returning filled me with dread. "I can't go back, not now. I don't know where to go or who to trust anymore," I confessed, the uncertainty of my future weighing heavily on me. Jack leaned in closer, his voice earnest. "You can stay here as long as you need. We could use someone with your abilities, and maybe you can help us understand more about the separatist movements." His offer took me by surprise, stirring a mix of emotions within me. "Help you? But I'm just learning to," I started, unsure of my own capabilities. "Your ability to connect, to feel what others feel, it's more powerful than you know, and it's needed here," Jack interrupted gently, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. Encouraged by his confidence in me, I nodded slowly, a newfound determination building within me. "I'll do my best." As my strength returned, Jack and I began planning our first mission together, to scout the nearby areas for any signs of separatist activity. Equipped with lightweight armor and supported by Jack, I ventured out of the outpost for the first time since my rescue. The jungle, which had once been a place of fear, now seemed different. My perception had changed. I felt more connected to the world around me, my senses attuned to the life teeming within it. "Stay close and keep your mind open, but guarded," Jack instructed as we navigated through the thick undergrowth. I focused, reaching out with my thoughts. The jungle responded not with words but with emotions, fear, curiosity, an echo of distant thoughts. Suddenly I stopped, my body tensing. "Something's wrong. There's fear. A lot of fear, not far from here," I whispered. Jack surveyed the area, his hand resting on the hilt of his weapon. "Lead the way. Let's find out what's causing it." We moved stealthily towards the source of the emotions I sensed. As we approached, we heard low voices and saw a group of Vori, looking ragged and scared, hidden among the trees. Jack and I exchanged a glance. Without a word, we stepped forward to intervene, our approach careful but determined. The Vori, startled at first, soon realized our intent to help, and their fear gave way to cautious relief. This encounter marked the beginning of my new role, a bridge between humans and my people, and a beacon of hope in the continuing strife. My journey through the jungle had transformed from a fight for survival to a path toward peace. Part 6, a question of morality. Under the dense canopy of Voria's jungle, a makeshift meeting unfolded, one that marked the beginning of a potential alliance. With Jack standing beside me, I addressed the small group of frightened Vori refugees. The flutter in my chest contrasted sharply with my steady voice as I tried to bridge the gap of distrust. "I know you're scared and unsure about trusting us," I began, "but we're here to help. The humans I'm with have shown me kindness and given me a chance to heal and fight back. We can offer you the same safety." The Vori exchanged wary glances, A young male with vibrant green plumage stepped forward, his feathers slightly ruffled in agitation. "How can we trust you? You're with the humans. They could be using you against us." Jack, sensing the escalating tension, quickly chimed in. "We're not here to use anyone. I'm here because I believe in doing what's right, even if it means risking my own safety. Leah saved me as much as I saved her. We've learned from each other, and together we're trying to make things better for everyone." Their skepticism seemed to thaw slightly as Jack spoke, and the refugees began to share their stories of displacement and fear. It was a slow process, but understanding began to dawn, weaving threads of hope among us. Meanwhile, the news of our activities had stirred concern back at the outpost. Upon our return, not only were Jack and I met with the usual bustle of the camp, but also with an air of scrutiny that was hard to miss. Commander Briggs, a man who always placed order and protocol above all, summoned Jack to his office immediately. I waited outside, the stark, sparse room illuminating only by the harsh light from an overhead lamp setting the stage for a tense exchange. "Mason, care to explain why you're conducting unsanctioned rescue missions and bringing potential enemies into our midst?" Commander Briggs' voice was icy, his displeasure clear and sharp. Jack's stance was firm, his resolve apparent even in his posture. "Commander, with all due respect, they're not enemies. They're victims of this war, just like we are. Leah has helped us understand things we couldn't before. She's bridging gaps that we couldn't even see." The commander leaned back, his expression unreadable as he tended his fingers in contemplation. "And you think playing hero in the jungle is the solution? What about the risk to our operations, to the safety of this outpost?" Jack's voice was steady, filled with a passion that resonated deeply with me as I listened. "I believe the greater risk is doing nothing. Helping Leah and the Vori could lead to a breakthrough in negotiations. We have a chance to end this conflict, to save lives." Commander Briggs sighed, his gaze piercing. "Or it could lead to our downfall. Be very careful, Mason. I'm allowing this because you've been right before, but this is your responsibility. Any fallout from this will be on your head." Jack nodded, his expression solemn. "Understood, sir. Thank you for trusting me with this." When Jack emerged from the commander's office, I searched his face for signs of how the discussion had gone. "Everything okay?" I asked, needing the reassurance his presence always provided. Jack managed a smile, though the weight of our situation lingered in his eyes. "It will be. We've got a green light to continue. Let's make sure we prove them right." Relief washed over me, mingling with determination. Together, we walked back to the heart of the camp, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Our partnership, fraught with the complexities of war, had become a living testament to the power of unity and moral courage. Part 7. Unity and New Beginnings. In the weeks that followed, the outpost I once viewed with wary eyes transformed into a bustling hub of activity and collaboration. Now fully recovered and increasingly confident in my role, I worked tirelessly alongside Jack to bridge communications between the human forces and my fellow Vori refugees. Our efforts were slow, yet the seeds of trust we planted through shared hardships and mutual goals were beginning to sprout. One crisp morning, as the outpost hummed with preparations for a significant community gathering, I stood beside Jack, surveying the assembled crowd. It was a diverse mix of humans and Vori, all united by a common yearning for peace. "Look at what you've started," Jack said, nudging me lightly with his elbow, a proud smile lighting up his face. "It's not just me," I replied, feeling a deep sense of humility wash over me. "It's all of us. But I couldn't have done this without your help, Jack." As the gathering commenced, Commander Briggs stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. His voice resonated clearly across the space, echoing off the makeshift buildings of the camp. "Today marks a new chapter for all of us," Briggs began. "Through cooperation and understanding, we have a chance to end the conflict that has torn Voria apart. This outpost, once just a military camp, is now a beacon of hope." I listened, my heart swelling with a mix of pride and anticipation. When the commander concluded his address, I took a deep breath and stepped forward. The sunlight caught my wings, making them shimmer as I approached the makeshift podium. The crowd fell silent, waiting for my words. "We stand here together, not as Vori or humans, but as beings who share the same sky, the same fears, and the same hopes. Today, we choose to heal, to forgive, and to move forward together, I declared, my voice steady and clear. Applause broke out, and I saw nods of agreement and faces filled with emotions. Hope, relief, determination. It was a profound moment, one that marked a turning point not just for the outpost, but for all of Voria. After the speeches, as people mingled and shared stories, a young Vori girl approached me. Her eyes, wide with admiration, looked up inquisitively. "Miss Leah, you've inspired all of us. How did you find the courage to trust again, to build something new from so much pain?" I knelt down to meet her gaze, my expression thoughtful. It wasn't easy, but I learned that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the quiet voice at the end of the day whispering, "I will try again tomorrow." And having friends like Jack makes it a little easier. Jack, who had been listening, joined us and added, "And sometimes it takes just one person to stand up and make a difference." Leah here taught me that. As the day faded into evening, Jack and I walked to our favorite spot on the edge of the outpost, watching as the sunset painted the sky with hues of orange and purple. We stood together in comfortable silence, reflecting on the journey that had brought us here. Jack broke the silence, his voice reflective. "You think we'll make it? After all this?" I looked up at him, my eyes steady and sure. "We've already made it further than anyone thought possible. No matter what comes, we'll face it together." As the stars began to twinkle in the twilight sky, I knew our path wouldn't be easy. But with each other and our newfound alliance, we had a fighting chance to forge lasting peace on Voria, proving that even in the darkest times, unity could indeed light the way forward.